Front Desk, Chapter 43. Hank was shocked by our offer. Hide me? Are you sure? Yes, my parents said. We do it all the time for immigrants from China. We just have to be careful. What if we get caught? Hank asked. We won't tell if you don't tell, my mom said. We helped Hank clean out his stuff and move into another room. There was no way he could keep staying in room 12. Mr. Yao might go and check in there. He had to switch rooms, but not with so much stuff. Hank had a lot of junk that he'd accumulated over the years, so whatever he decided wasn't essential, we chucked. We moved his tomato plant to the pool. The rest we moved into my closet. When he was able to get his bare essentials down to one small bag, my dad handed him the key to room 5. It'll only be for a little while, Hank said, just until I get back on my feet. He was adamant about finding another job. On that front, he wasn't having a ton of luck, though. The problem wasn't finding an open position. It was that he didn't have a reference letter from an old employer. What's a reference letter? I asked him before I left for the night. He didn't seem like he wanted to talk about it much, so he wouldn't say exactly. Just that it was important and he didn't have it. Later that week, I asked Hank if there was anything I could do to help him find a job, but again, he batted me away. Look, if it was simple, I would have asked you already, but it's not. It's complicated, he said. So, what's so complicated about it? I asked him. He shook his head. You're just a kid. You don't understand, he said, which hurt a lot. I wanted to say to Hank, no, you don't understand. You don't understand what it's like to have to hold in your pee and not make a sound when you're in the bathroom and the popular girls walk in and start talking about you. I crossed my arms at Hank. Try me, I said. He sighed. Most places won't hire you unless you have a letter from your old boss saying how good you were, and I don't have that, he said, frowning. Well, could you get it? I asked him. He shook his head. No, I already tried. He paused for a second and added, and that's not even the biggest problem. What's the biggest problem? I asked. The biggest problem is that on top of everything else, now I have a criminal conviction. His fight with the guys who beat up my mom meant he had a record now. No employer wanted to touch him. I can't even hide it, he said. All they have to do is run a criminal record check and boom, there it is. So tell them the truth, I said. Tell them you were defending my mom. They'll never believe that, he said. Why not? Hank shook his head. Because I'm not like you, Mia. People look at you and they see a nice, sweet Chinese girl. What do they see when they see you? I asked. He looked at his feet. A criminal, Hank said. No, I said firmly. Don't say that. Why do you think I took the plea? I know what the verdict would be if we went to trial. People look at me and see guilty. I shook my head furiously. No, no, I kept repeating. Hank got quiet. There are some things, Mia, that no matter how hard you try, you'll never fully understand. As Hank looked into my eyes, I realized there were reference letters and mean girls, and then there were other things on a whole other level of you don't understand. Chapter 44. The police came over 2 days after the robbery to get my mom's statement about her attackers. She was worried about having to testify in court because of her broken English, but the police officer assured her she didn't need to testify if she didn't want to. Her attackers were ex-convicts who had skipped out on their parole. They were going to stay in jail, this time with no parole. My mother was relieved. Word got out about my mother's attack, and the security guard from the Topaz Inn once again came bopping over. Hank and I were both at the front desk this time. I narrowed my eyes. What do you want? I heard about the attack, he said. Terrible, just terrible. 2 bad guys you didn't have a security guard like me. I would have pounded his head in. And you would have gotten arrested, Hank pointed out. The security guard gave a half shrug. In my line of work, an arrest is a badge of courage, he said. He jammed his hands into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Here's my number in case you guys ever need to hire a security guard, he said, sliding his card across the desk. I picked it up and was about to throw it away when Hank said, Let me see that. He took the card with him back to his room. The next morning, Hank came back to the front office with 4 letters. He handed them to me. "Mail these for me, will you?" he asked. "Sure thing," I said, taking the letters from him. The envelopes were addressed to various malls in our area: Anaheim Plaza, where my mom and I like to go, the Garden Walk, the festival over in Anaheim Hills, which was supposed to be really nice, and Canyon Plaza. One of the letters was not still tight, and as I flipped it over, the letter fell out. The word security guard caught my eye. I started reading. "Dear Anaheim Plaza, my name is Hank Caleb, and I would like to apply for a job as a security guard in your mall. I am hardworking and honest. I am also responsible and take my job very seriously. My last job was working at a gas station. I had to do many things, like tend to the cash register, keep an eye on the customers. A lot of people tried to steal from gas stations, wash windshields, and check fluid levels and air pressure. During my entire time working at the gas station, I was never late once. I took great pride in my work, and I would like the opportunity to be a security guard because I like helping people and keeping them safe. If you hire me, I will not let you down. I would be honored to come in for an interview. Sincerely, Hank Caleb." I thought it was a wonderful letter, and as I read it, I wanted to run out the back, find Hank, and give him a hug. I hope they gave him an interview and didn't just write back asking for a reference letter. I started thinking some more about this pesky reference letter. If only there was a way I could help him get one. That's when it dawned on me. I got out a piece of paper and started writing. "Dear employer, I would like to recommend Hank Caleb to you as a security guard. Hank Caleb has been a security guard at the Cala Vista Motel from June until now, and he is the most responsible, capable, and courageous security guard we have ever had. Recently at the Cala Vista, we had an unfortunate incident which some crazy, dangerous people tried to steal money from the cash register. One of our managers tried to stop them and was beaten up and had to go to the hospital. Hank immediately ran after the attackers. He chased them 4 blocks, he managed to catch them, and he got into a fight with them. Unfortunately, some cops saw Hank getting into a fight with them and he ended up arrested. But the point is, Hank went out of his way to protect his managers, when most security guards would have stayed back. You will not find a better security guard than Hank. Please find the receipt of the hospital bill stapled as evidence. If you have any questions, please call the Cala Vista at 555-281-0482. Sincerely, the managers of the Cala Vista Motel. It took me 2.5 hours and 5 drafts to write the reference letter. I didn't want the letter to sound like it came from a kid, so I borrowed Mrs. T's dictionary, thesaurus again, and tried to make it as good as Hank's. I substituted simple words for fancier words and checked all the tenses and grammar. Finally, after proofreading it 10 times, I copied the letter onto 4 clean white sheets of paper. I also rewrote Hank's letters in a different handwriting and changed all the stuff he wrote about working at a gas station to working at the Cala Vista. As I was forging Hank's signature, I felt a teeny tiny bit bad. Was what I was doing wrong? What if I got caught? Would Hank be mad at me? Part of me wanted to go over and tell Hank that what I was doing, ask him if it was okay, but the other part of me worried he would say no, especially given his strict views on reference letters. As I fretted over what to do, I glanced over at my math textbook and thought of my mom. She told me once when she was a little girl she would eavesdrop on her brother's math lessons with his tutor. Her family only had enough money for one math tutor to come by the house, and her parents did not think it was useful to educate a girl. But my mother, because she loved math so much, refused to give it up. She would listen in on her brother's lessons every week. If the tutor assigned homework, she would secretly do the homework. And here's the funny part. She would then sneak over to her brother's desk at night and change all of her brother's answers to match her own, so that when the tutor came, he'd go over with them what she did wrong. In time, my mother got really good at math. That's probably why she was constantly hounding me to do more math. But that wasn't the point. The point was sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands, and you have to be creative to get what you want. I stuffed the letters into new envelopes. As I licked them shut, I whispered under my breath, Please let this work.